Well, hey there, everybody. It's your boy, Mr. Perry, and we're about to get into our summer homework for AP CSA. Throughout this class, obviously, we're going to be focusing on learning Java and how to use Java in order to write programs. And a couple of the bigger skills that we're going to have to focus on is how to write what's called a class and then how to write methods. You're going to spend a lot of time in this course doing both of those things. So your summer homework is designed to basically be your first step in doing a lot of this kind of stuff with programming, taking this approach. So in Java, very often what we're going to talk about is how to create a class. And when you think about programming and what a lot of computer programs are designed to do, very often when we sit down to write a program, we're trying to simulate something from the real world. So that could be we want to simulate a certain game, or we want to maybe simulate like some kind of like calendar app that maybe helps us keep track of important dates or whatever. So for this one, we're going to do something that hopefully feels familiar to you. We're going to create a virtual pet. And this virtual pet is going to be a project that you'll be able to return to throughout the year to add more and more details to kind of build it out and become something that's a little bit more elaborate. But to start, we're going to keep things pretty simple. Now, anytime we're going to write a class, we're going to use what's called a UML, which is a way of just kind of representing what the class needs to have in it in order for it to do what we want it to do. So this is a common design that people will use when they're working in Java and they want to create a program and they know they need to create a class. It's very common to do a UML, what's called a UML diagram. So this UML diagram will outline our pet class. And so what this tells us is every single pet in our program will have certain attributes. So every pet will have a name, it'll have a type, and it'll have an age. And then every single pet that we create in this pet class will also have certain behaviors. So this is what it's going to do. And we're going to teach it how to speak, and we'll have it eat, and we'll have it do a trick. So every single every single pet that we will create will have its own name, its own type of animal, and its own unique age. And then each one of our pets will also speak, eat, and do a certain trick. So that's what we're going to be working with. It's pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and hop out of our slideshow and go to CodeHS. So we'll go ahead and we'll plan on using CodeHS for some of our individual projects. And we'll be using some other web-based resources as well in the class. But for right now, we'll go ahead and use CodeHS. And so if you already have a CodeHS account, you can go ahead and log in. If you're brand new, you can go ahead and sign up. I'm going to go ahead and log in, and I'm just going to use my HVS Google credentials. That's the easiest way to do it, so I recommend doing that. If you create your account, go ahead and just create your account using Google. And once you're in, you can head on over to the sandbox, which is up here. This is where you can create basically any program that you want to. And so we'll go ahead and do that. And so we're going to name our program Virtual Pet. And then you go over to where it says Create Program. Now, you want to make sure that you have Java main selected. We won't do any of these other ones. Just make sure you have Java main selected, and then scroll down a little bit, and you can click on Create Program. And once you are in here, this is what they give you. So basically just follow along with me as we program this. We're going to do this in two parts. The first part, we are going to create the pet class file, and then we're going to go ahead and create a couple of pet objects. And then in the next video, I'm going to show you how to add behaviors, how to make it do stuff. So when you open a Java program in CodeHS, it looks like this. It gives you a file right here. This is what's called a Java file. myprogram.java. And then you'll notice line 1 says public class myprogram. So you might notice that this name right here matches the name of the file, and that it has to match in order for this to work. And then one of the most famous lines of code that you will learn, or that anybody will learn when they start programming in Java, is this line of code right here. Public static void main, and then in parentheses, string args, and then these little square brackets after string. What you're looking at here, this is called the main method. And anytime you run a Java program, you have to have a main method. If you don't have a main method somewhere, then your program's not going to do anything. And you only need to have one file with a main method. So we're going to keep our main method. This is going to stay right here in the myprogram.java file. So we'll be working with this later. For right now, what we're going to do is we're going to add a new file. So I'm going to click New, and I'm going to click New File, and I'm going to call this pet.java. Make sure you use a capital P for pet, and then lowercase everything else. And let's just say you were going to, if you wanted to name a class file that had like more than one word, let's say we wanted to call this virtual pet.java, then the thing to do would be capital V virtual and then capital P pet.java. If anytime you have a Java file, if it's got more than one word in it, you just basically capitalize the first letter of each word. But I'm going to keep this one simple. We're just going to keep it as pet.java. I'm going to add file. And now you'll notice it's added pet.java right here. And it says public class pet. But then notice it gave us another main method. So we want to delete that. We don't need two main methods. We only need one. And we're going to keep that over here in the my program. All right, so let's go into pet, and let's go ahead and start programming this class file. So again, going back to our UML, we said every pet needs to have a name. So that's going to be a word, obviously. It's going to be it needs to have a type, so that's also going to be a word. It could be dog, it could be cat, it could be horse. And then it needs to have an age, so that's going to be an integer. It's obviously going to be a number. So in Java, the data type does matter. So whether or not it's going to be a word or a number, you have to take note of those things. And we're going to go ahead and start defining the pet class's attributes. So follow along with me. The first thing you have to type in is private. And we're going to say private string name. And then add a semicolon on the end. In Java, you do have to have a semicolon at the end of most lines of code. So that's another thing that you're just going to have to get used to. All right, so we've got private string name. We now need private string type. And then we type in private. And then I just need to type in int, which is short for integer. And that's going to be age. Okay. Now you'll notice that the S in string needs to be capitalized, but the I in int does not need to be capitalized. It should not be capitalized. And you'll learn more about why some things are capitalized and why other things aren't. We'll learn more about that in the class. You don't have to worry about that right now. Again, this is just basically for training purposes. So I'm pretty much just showing you how to write a class file. Now you probably, if you took AP CSP, you learned about making comments and adding comments. So I'm going to go ahead and add a single line comment, and the way I do that is I do 2 forward slashes, and I'm just going to identify that this is the class header. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a blank space here, and then over here I'm going to identify these are the instance variables, and these are also known as fields. But what we just did here is we defined the attributes of every single pet. Every pet will have its own name, type, and age. We said that's, those were the main attributes according to our UML. So we have to define those. We have to define the data type, and we have to label them as private. And we can call these together collectively. We can call these the instance variables. They are also known as fields. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to write what's called the constructor. So to do that, we basically we're going to repeat this first line of code right here, public class pet, except we don't include the word class. We can now just say public pet. But now we need to open our parentheses because this needs parameters. And the good news is we are basically just going to repeat what we see up here. So inside the parentheses, I'm going to say string name, comma, string type, comma, and then int age. And now I don't need a semicolon here, but I do need to add a set of curly braces. So right above your enter key on the right hand side of the keyboard, you'll see square brackets, and then if you hit shift, that's how you add curly braces. And so if I do the left facing curly brace and hit enter, you'll notice it's automatically given me a partner down here. It automatically gives me a right facing one right here. So in between these curly braces, I'm now going to go ahead and add some lines of code. And this will be a little bit weird, but just kind of follow, like I say, just do what I do. What I now need to do is I need to say this dot name equals name, semicolon, and then just basically repeat that pop process. This dot type equals type. This dot age equals age. Okay. Now what we just did here is we just added what's called your constructor. So again, over here I'm going to comment constructor. Okay. So I'm just going to point out a couple of things. You'll notice that right now we have two sets of curly braces. Up here, after public class pet on line 1, we have this left-facing curly brace, and the partner is down here on line 14. This basically tells Java that everything contained in between these two curly braces is all what makes up this Java pet file. Now right here, the constructor has its own set of curly braces. You've got the left-facing one right here, and then over here is the right-facing one. So now I'm going to hit enter a couple of times, and now we just need to do some relatively uninteresting stuff. We have to add what are called your get methods and your set methods. And this is very common practice in Java. When you're writing a class file, typically you need to write what are called get methods and set methods for each one of these instance variables. You'll learn more about this in class later on, but for right now, again, just follow along with me and just do what I do. So I'm going to say public, and let's see, first we'll do the get methods. So for the get methods, we are going to be returning the value of name, type, and age. And so since the first one is name, and name is a string, then we're going to say public string get name. And notice I'm using camel case for the name of my method here. This is standard practice. The other thing that some people do is if something is more than one word, they will do a get underscore name. This is another way of doing it. But for the purposes of this class, we're just going to use get name because that's the way you're going to see it on your AP exam. So it just makes a little bit more sense to do it that way. Now I do need to add open close parentheses at the end of this. And because this is a method, I also need to add a set of curly braces. So I hit my left-facing curly brace, hit enter. Here's my right-facing curly brace. Very easy. Now I just need to type in return name, semicolon. How easy is that? All right, now I need to do the same thing for type, and age. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste these 3 lines of code. Since I already took the time to type it out once, then I can go ahead and just copy and paste, and then just change this to be get type. And then instead of return name, I will return type. And then hit enter, and then I'll paste it one more time. Now this time I'm going to be returning an integer, which is age. So I need to change this. Instead of public string, excuse me, it needs to say public int. And we are going to get age. Oops. And then down here, we're going to return age. Okay. So we got that part done. This is all pretty easy. Now we need to do what are called our set methods. And set methods go like this. Public void set name, but this time inside our parentheses we have to give it a new name. So I'm going to say string name, and open a set of curly braces, hit enter, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this dot name equals name. Now there's another way of doing this. I could also I could say, instead of, because some people don't like using the same variable name over and over and over again. Personally, I like the way this one works, and I'll explain why more in class, but just for the sake of demonstration, I could say in parentheses new name, and then down here, instead of this dot name equals name, I can just say name equals new name. And basically all this means is once I create a pet object, if I decide I want to change its name, I need to have a way of updating its name. And so that's what the set name method is going to do. And you know, there's a couple of different ways that you can program it. Some people prefer it this way because it's very obvious to tell that, like, okay, new name is new name, and that's different from name, which is the original one that we gave it up here. But personally, I like doing it where I just kind of repeat the instance variable, just because it's, I don't know, I feel like it's less to remember. So this dot name equals name is all we need here. All right, let's go ahead and copy these 3 lines of code. Let's paste them down here, and this time we're going to set type, because that was our next instance variable. And then we'll say this type equals type. And then finally, we've got to do the same thing for age. So I'll go outside my method, paste it one more time. This time we are going to set age. And this one does not get a string, it gets an int, representing the new age that we want to update it to. And then we have to say this age equals age. All right. And so there you go. We've created a pretty good class file here so far. I'm going to hop up here to line 13, and I'm just going to add my documentation. These are our get and set methods. And then the last thing we're going to do is another, common standard practice. We're going to create what's called a toString method, and then I'm going to show you how all of this comes together and what all of this means. So we're going to do a toString method. Get ready, my friends. This is going to be fancy. We're going to say public string, and then using camel case, toString, open close parentheses, add my curly braces, and hit enter. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do this in 2 lines. I can do this just in 1 line, but some people find it a little bit easier to understand if we do it this way. So I'm going to say string info equals, and then in quotation marks, the pet's name is. Here's where it's going to start to look a little bit more like AP CSP if you took that class. We're going to concatenate some strings with some variables here. So the pet's name is name, and then plus again. And now I'm going to add a period and then a space. Actually, let's make that a comma, and I'll say, and it is a. And let's go ahead and move this over. It is a plus type, so that will concatenate the type to it. And now we're going to add just a little bit more text. I'm going to add a period, and we will say it is, or we'll say its age is, and then we will go outside those quotation marks and do add age, and then we'll just add another period at the end to indicate end of the sentence. All right, so all of this that you see right here is being stored, this whole string is being stored as a variable called info. Now I just need to return that info, or return that string. So I'm going to come to the end of my line, hit enter, and now I'm just going to say return info, semicolon. All right, so there you go. That's our toString method. I mentioned I could do this just as one line of code. I can literally just leave it as, if you want to, you can do this as well. You can just say return and then type in the string that you want to return. That's another way of doing it. You know, technically this is fewer lines of code, so it's a little bit easier. I would need to have a semicolon at the end of the line if I did it that way. So that's one option, but again, I'll just go back to the way I had it before. String info equals all of that. Go to the end of the line. And then return info. Okay. Return info, semicolon. All right, so now we're ready to go ahead and start creating our first virtual pet. How exciting is this? Let's go ahead and go over here to myprogram.java, and we're going to go inside our main method. I need to make sure that I'm inside my curly braces here. In fact, sometimes I'll just hit enter a few times just to kind of open up some space right here, just so I feel like I have more workspace this way. But whatever, you don't have to. All right, well, we've got our pet program ready to go. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to run it and just make sure there aren't any syntax errors. Just make sure I didn't screw anything up. And of course I did. There is. It is expecting. Okay. I do need to have a semicolon at the end of line 38 where it says string info equals blah, 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 blah. At the very end here. Yeah, I should have known better. I do need to have a semicolon. Again, you have to have a semicolon at the end of almost every line of code in Java. All right, so we've got that error fixed. Hopefully that's the only one. Let me run it one more time, and I am good. Okay, no news is good news at this point. All right, so now let's go ahead and create a pet object. So what if I wanted to actually simulate having a virtual pet, right? So the first thing I need to do is I need to create a pet object, and the way I do that is I say pet with a capital P, indicating this is going to be from the pet class. Again, capital P here, capital P there. And I'm going to go ahead and say I will call this one Coco, pet Coco. Now this is the name of the variable, equals new pet, and now open parentheses. What we're doing right here is we are calling the constructor where it says public pet, string name, string type, int age. This line of code and everything that's wrapped up right here, this is what we're about to call with this this single line of code. All right, so it needs 3 pieces of information. It needs the pet's name, so in parentheses, or I'm sorry, in quotation marks, the name of my pet is Coco. add a comma. Now it needs a type. So I'm going to say dog. And then now it needs an age. I'm going to go ahead and say 15. At the end of this line of code, I need a semicolon. And now I need to go ahead and call my toString method. So this next line that I'm going to type in, system.out.println. This is another line of code that you're going to be using frequently in the class. And now I'm just going to type in Cocoa, C-O-C-O-A, with my semicolon. So you'll notice I'm printing this variable name that I had right here. See, this matches right here. And if I did my job correctly as a programmer, when I say when I tell it to print Cocoa, it's going to call that toString method. Let's go ahead and run it. And there you go. The pet's name is Cocoa, and it is a dog. Its age is 15. So we successfully did that. If I wanted to, I could create another pet object. So I'm going to go pet, and let's see. So when I was a kid, I had a dog named Coco. I also had a bird named Redini. So I'm going to go ahead and name this one Redini. Just do a little shout out to my old pets. So pet Redini equals new pet. And Redini is a cockatiel. I think that's how you spell cockatiel. I should probably have looked that up beforehand. Actually, it needs its name first. All right, so the first thing you got to give it is the name. So the name is Redini, comma. We will say Redini is a cockatiel. And sadly, Redini died very young. So Redini, we'll put her as 1 year old. Oops, not 10, 1. Close my parentheses, add that, and oops, what happened here? Delete. Okay. And now again, I will system.out.println. Let's go ahead and print Redini. Semicolon. Now I should get 2 lines here. There you go. All right. Pet's name is Coco. Pet's name is Redini. There you go. So all of that information is now appearing. We did the basics. We did our congratulations. At this point, as long as you have followed the video here, at this point you have created your very first class in Java. And again, this is something that we're just going to do on repeat over and over and over again. This is a process that you're going to have to memorize in the class. And so we want to get really good at doing this. So the more practice you get doing this, the better. So why not start at the beginning of the school year, even before the beginning of the school year? Let's go ahead and make this our summer homework. So you've created the pet class, and you have also created objects of the pet class. We created Coco, who is an object of the pet class, and we've also created Redini, who is another object of the pet class. On the next video, I'm going to show you how to make these things talk and eat and do tricks. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video.